Welcome once again to the Random Wrestling Review and our local to global series. And it's the first episode of this series where in game we are in the new millennium. The year 2000 is upon us and we enter into hopefully a bright new future. And you catch us, you join us again, I should say, exactly where we left off after the last episode. We obviously went through all of the awards for the previous year and went also looked at Starcade and what happened there. But Part of the Millennium was our show, and it was a really decent one. Another good show rating of 39, headlined by that 10-man tag match. But more significantly than all of that, it was the biggest attendance that the company has had in its entire history, 164 for the free show party of the Millennium. And I'm thinking of doing a free show every 3 months or so. That was quite a difficult sentence to say. We'll see. One of the things that will determine that is what impact it all has on our finances. Because, as I sort of said at the end of the last episode, we're actually back in the red, or in terms of how much our profit loss situation is anyway. We lost 2.2k in December 99. Now, I don't think that'll be a major problem going forward, but we do just have to be mindful of that as we go. Anyway, whatever the case, we are going to book our first new event for the new millennium. I do want to just check that I'm pretty sure we haven't had this as a name. RWR New Beginning is what the next show is going to be called. Not because of any broader theme on the show that suggests we're going in a completely new direction or anything, but more because it's the first show of the new millennium and it just felt like an obvious name for an event. So everybody's available on that date. So that's what we're going to put in place for this event, this next event in our calendar. And I've got a full card already lined up with loads of stuff on it. I feel like this might be the future going forward. We had 7 matches at the season's beating show back in December, and I've got 7 matches on my plan for this next this next event as well. So, I mean, this is just potentially the new normal. We do have a roster now of 18 wrestlers, so it kind of does lend itself to a match or two extra. I mean, the only reason we didn't have more than 5 matches on the last show is because we did a 10-man tag match. But so long as we avoid that kind of match or multiple sort of 6-man tag and 8-man tag matches, then 7 matches might become the norm. And I don't really see us needing to grow beyond that point for a very, very, very long time. I mean, 7 matches is pretty standard. We don't want a huge turnover of a roster. When we get to the future, maybe we're doing more frequent events, so we might need to up the numbers of wrestlers. But overall, I can see 7 being a sort of maximum amount. Certainly would not expect that to be kind of for us to go over 7 too many times. WWF have launched a new stable. Shawn Michaels, Goldust, Sid, and Ahmed Johnson will apparently debut as the block of the next WWF event. Fascinating stuff. I mean, really is fascinating stuff. Is Shawn Michaels still? Yeah, I mean, of course he is. He was one of the tag team of the year. I was going to say, is Shawn Michaels still active? Of course he is. He's not had that long break, a long period out of action from early '98 through to 2002. He's just continuing to go on. And actually, if you look at the Power 500 here, Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Kevin Nash, and Bret Hart are the top 5. Then Rey Mysterio Jr. and Brian Pillman, 2 wrestlers who left WCW during 1999, a major, major problem for them. And I mean, yeah, WWF are occupying all of the top spaces. So let's get us to a new beginning then. As I say, lots to actually put into this event. It might take me a while to book it. So don't imagine we'll do anything more than the one show on today's episode. We're going to start with a match between Rex King and Billy Kidman. This will be Rex King's first singles bout in the new in the company. It'll be a 7-minute match to work the crowd. Not call in ring, open match. In full finish. I think we'll go for a tainted win as well. The winner will be, on this occasion, Rex King. We'll book that. Before that match, though, we're going to have Rex King cut a promo on Billy Kidman, and he's going to effectively, before the match, when they're both in the ring, Rex King's going to blame Kidman for him losing in his debut at the last event. Make it 5 minutes. In fact, let's make it 4. It doesn't need to be that long. So that's what's going to happen there. And the storyline, let's add the storyline as well. So my vision for Rex King, certainly before I brought him in, was for him to be kind of a lower card heel. I don't expect him to be like a major star or anything for us, or a major sort of headlining star. And he was going to go into programs with people like Billy Kidman. But his performance on his debut suggests that we could do more with him if we want to. So anyway, that's going to be his first singles match anyway, with the company. Then we're going to have Mark Henry against C.W. Anderson. They have had no previous matches with one another. We'll make this one go 6 minutes, so it's not quite as much of a squash, but Mark Henry is going to win. We still have the problem with him and Bill Alfonso. And I'm really still not sure what we do with this. I'm wondering whether there's something I can, because I've been thinking about something that we could do with Mark Henry, but I'm what this is all about is addressing the fact that obviously Mark Henry and Bill Alfonso do not have chemistry. The second manager in a row for Mark Henry that doesn't have chemistry with him, and I think I've come to the conclusion that Mark Henry simply doesn't want a manager, and that's all fine. That can happen, but I prefer if I could avoid it because it would hasten my need to split Mark Henry and Bill Alfonso up in some way for some reason, and I'm not exactly sure how I want that to go. We did have a thing in not the last episode. Was it the last episode? No, it was the episode before last where Bill Alfonso talked Mark Henry out of continuing his attack on his opponent after the match. I'm wondering if we do something similar here before I go any further. So I think I will. Um, Menace is the better one for him. So yeah, we're going to have Alfonso again prevents Henry from continuing his assault on Anderson after match. Doesn't have to be a long one, but again, it just keeps this ticking along because I kind of have an idea. But if I don't need to separate Mark Henry and Bill Alfonso, I won't. That's the way I'm feeling about this at the moment. So the next match we have is Chris Adams versus Dave Batista. So pretty significant singles match here. Now seems like a good time to look at our rankings. So Dave Batista's at 5th with 6 points. Chris Adams also has 6 points. So this is a quite important singles match between two men looking to push themselves up the rankings. You can see Dan Severn still champion. He actually has not got 5 matches and 5 wins. He's got 6 matches and 6 wins. That is a mistake. He's got 6 wins. Of course, his 6th win coming in the 10-man tag match that took place in December. Charlie Haas is now joint #1 contender with Shawn Stasiak, both on 10 points, but Charlie Haas won the coin toss at the last event to secure himself a title shot at this event. Then we have Barry Buchanan on 9 points, Ace Steel also on 6 points, Mark Henry on 5, Billy Kimmel on 4, Buddy Wayne 3, Chemo Keith Hart and Ekman on 2, C.W. Anderson on 1, and then you've got Rex King, CM Punk and Teddy Hart on 0, and finally James Storm, the 18th man now in our roster, -4 points. That's following the 5 that he was deducted by Bruce Hart as a consequence of not living up to the pre-match stipulation where he should have been forced to leave the company after losing to Kid Chaos all the way back in September of 1998. So this has kind of got a long tail to it, this story. And James Storm -4 is the points he's now got. So anyway, Chris Adams versus Dave Batista. And in this one, I've decided to give Chris Adams his first loss in a singles match. He's already had one loss because he was on the heel team for the 10-man tag match last month. But this time, I think it's time to give him a loss in a singles match. He's actually extremely unhappy. Let's keep him strong. But the reason I'm doing it is because, like, he can't go for any length of time. He will be exhausted by the end of this match, which is not really what I'm looking for in someone I'm really going to push hard. We've given him a chance. We've given him like 7 matches in the company prior to this point to kind of get his stamina up, but obviously that's not going to happen now. He's kind of late in his career, and Batista's a big star, so I felt like, actually losing here is not a major problem, but it just halts the momentum that Chris Adams has had moving up the ranks. And that's not to say that he won't get a future title shot. It's just to say that I'm not as eager to get him there as I perhaps was at one point. So next we have another promo, and it is another one from James Storm and Woman. Oh, Bruce Hart and Buddy Wayne. So James Storm notes that company put him against Wayne tonight to stop him ri- ri- rising up the rank. That's the sort of main thing about this angle, is that James Storm's basically saying that tonight he's got to face Buddy Wayne, and this is an attempt by the company to prevent him rising up the ranks. He says that he's got 7 months to get back to the top of the ranks. He wants to be the champion again, and this is the company's way of preventing him from getting there, putting him in a tough match against Buddy Wayne. Then we've got a tag team match, which sees Ace Steel and Barry Buchanan against Keith Hart and Teddy Hart. So Teddy Hart still being given opportunities to make his way up the ranks. We're going to make this 9 minutes long, and it's going to be a win for, I think we'll go with Barry Buchanan this time, pinning 7-pin Teddy Hart. Teddy Hart yet to get any points or any victories or anything so far, and he's not going to get one from his match with Ace Steel and Barry Buchanan. And we have another angle, Emo this time, alongside his cousin Ekmo, and they are cutting a promo on Charlie Haas and C.W. Anderson. Samoan Violence Connection say after last event they deserve a rematch for the tag titles. I'll make this reasonably short, 4 minutes, but this is ultimately, obviously, the Samoan Violence Connection lost the tag belts to Red Alert in on the season beating show, but then in the last event they pinned both men in individual singles matches. And so now they're sort of saying we now deserve a rematch for the tag team belts given those results. That is ahead of Chemo's match with Shawn Stasiak, which Stasiak is going to win. Another big win for him. Just wondering, is there anything I can do? I don't think there's anything I can do here, which is a shame. I was trying to find something that makes this a lesser, not a lesser, but a what's the word I'm looking for? a kind of a victory that shows Shawn Stasiak to be a bit of a heel. I can't think of anything. Actually, I have thought of something. Let me just check the rankings here. So Shawn Stasiak has 10 wins. Yeah, he needs to win this match, I think. So we'll keep it like that. I was going to potentially have him lose by DQ. Still tempted to have him lose by DQ. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to have Stasiak lose this one. Emo's going to win, and it's going to be by DQ. We're going to have a storytelling match here. Basically, Stasiak gets angry, gets very aggressive with Chemo. I mean, I know Chemo's a heel, but still, we were trying to show that Stasiak is a bit of a. It's starting to go off the rails somewhat. and so he loses the match because he, unleashes a torrent of violence against his opponent, to which the referee has to throw the match out. So then ahead of the next match, as Buddy Wayne is coming to the ring, he is attacked by CM Punk. So as Wayne enters for his match, CM Punk attacks him and leaves him lying. Then we have the match between James Storm and Buddy Wayne, and it's going to be shorter than would normally be the case because Buddy Wayne is hurt by the attack from CM Punk, and the referee's going to end the match because of injury. So injury stoppage finish. That's what's going to happen here. James Storm and Buddy Wayne. James Storm is going to win because the referee stops the match due to injury to Buddy Wayne. Then we're going to have the Northwest title match. The main event is going to be Dan Severn versus Charlie Haas. This one we're going to make a 15-minute contest with Dan Severn winning. Yeah, Dan Severn winning. And by submission finish. But it's an open match. Yeah, so let's just do slow build if we can. Should mean Dan Severn can get through it. And then after the match, we're going to have Dan Severn going to have Dan Severn show his respect for Haas with a handshake. Crowd cheer in appreciation. So Dan Severn gets another title match victory, but this time afterwards reaches out his hand to the less experienced and less well-known Charlie Haas, who's been coming up the ranks recently and looking quite impressive indeed, and offers him a handshake, and the two shake hands, and the crowd are happy with that. I think that's everything that we're doing for the show. I mean, I say that as if I haven't got enough. There's loads. There's just loads on this event. But that's what we're doing. So let's go to the event now. I think I've just checked that, haven't I? Yeah, we're all good. Let's do this. So 106 people. That's the highest paid attendance for a random wrestling review show so far. It begins with Rex King coming to the ring, and before his match with Billy Kidman, he blames Kidman for him not being successful in his debut at the last event. And Rex King says that Billy Kidman has to pay for what he did. And he does pay because King wins in 7 minutes and 18 seconds by pinfall after using a foreign object. And again, Rex King, an in-ring performance of 39, so he's pretty good. I feel like he's somebody that we may have to use in a higher role than I had originally intended for him. But we'll wait and see what happens there. Billy Kidman was a 27, which isn't bad, although not his best. Segment rating, though, a 35, a really good way to start the show this time around. Then we had Mark Henry versus C.W. Anderson in what is undoubtedly Henry's best match to date. He wins in 6:14 by pinfall with a big splash. So despite the awkward pairing of Mark Henry and Bill Alfonso, this was a good segment. 31. Mark Henry had a 23 in-ring performance. C.W. Anderson a 32. Reasons to believe that we can live with the issues between Henry and Alfonso, potentially. After the match, once again, Mark Henry goes to continue to assault C.W. Anderson, but Bill Alfonso gets in his face and prevents him from doing so, talks him down, and moves him back to the backstage area, which is the only motivation Bill Alfonso's got for this is to avoid Mark Henry getting another suspension and another points deduction as he did a few months back. They've got a segment rating of 41, so these two, in terms of their angles, are doing really well. It's just they've got no chemistry when it comes to the matches. Next, Chris Adams versus Dave Batista in a match which goes 8 minutes 53 seconds and is won by Batista by pinfall. This is obviously quite important in terms of the rankings, with both men on 6 wins to this point, or 6 points, I should say, to this point. It's Batista who gets the next point, a segment rating of 36, Batista a 38. Chris Adams was off his game and visibly tiring toward the end. So, again, just reinforces my belief that we're not in any rush now to get Chris Adams any higher than he is in the rankings as it stands. Batista's better to invest that victory in. For the next match, James Storm and Woman come to the ring, and James Storm, they both address, I should say, they both address everything that took place in the last show, where James Storm was given a 5-point penalty for the indiscretion that happened over a year ago, and the fact that James Storm has a guaranteed contract until the end of July. And James Storm says that one of the ways in which he was going to show the Random Wrestling Review management that they wanted to keep him beyond July is by winning the Random Wrestling Review Northwest title, but that Bruce Hart has prevented him, or is trying to prevent him from doing that by, first of all, deducting him five rankings points, but also now putting him in a difficult match tonight against Buddy Wayne to try and prevent him from getting up the rankings. But James Storm assures everybody that come July, Random Wrestling Review will be offering him another contract. So next we have the tag team match, Ace Steel and Barry Buchanan versus Keith Hart and Teddy Hart. A segment rating here of 34. Steel and Buchanan win in 9:21 when Buchanan pins Teddy Hart with a guillotine leg drop. Barry Buchanan has an in-ring performance of 33, Steel of 35, Teddy Hart at 25. Not bad from Teddy Hart, actually, probably his best performance to date, and Keith Hart just a 23. I feel like this is the next and final role for Keith Hart in our company, which is to be Teddy's tag team partner. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. But this is the idea now, is that Keith is going to be teaming up with Teddy as a tag team, with the kind of continued um, goal of bringing Teddy Hart through as a professional wrestler and giving him experience. Then we have the Samoan Violence Connection come to the ring, and they speak about the fact that they deserve a rematch for the tag team titles after last month. Both of them pinned their opponents in singles matches, Charlie Haas and C.W. Anderson, the current tag champions, and they feel like they deserve the tag team title shot that they rematch that they probably deserved anyway for having been previous champions. Sorry, my articulation of this particular promo has been very, very poor indeed, so apologies for that. But yes, ultimately they are challenging C.W. Anderson and Charlie Haas to a rematch and feel like they have deserved it because of their previous exploits. Segment rating of 28, and we continue on with the feud between these two. Well, they don't actually have a feud at the moment. I'm just going to return to booking screen because I wanted to review our stories, because I think we will. Let's just, now we've done that last angle, I'm tempted to change. I was going to change it to a whole new feud, but I'll make it that, and we'll definitely end this story when we get to the end of their feud here over the tag titles. We got Punk and Wayne, Batista in the Shadow. We're going to keep that for the time being, but I think we're pretty much done with the feud between Batista and James Storm for now. Mark Henry anger management is still going. Rex King versus Billy Kidman has started, and the emergence of the Rebellion, I guess that's still going too. So let's get to our next match, which is Shawn Stasiak versus Chemo. A match that had fantastic heat and great wrestling. Chemo defeats Shawn Stasiak in 10:33 by disqualification. Shawn Stasiak had a 37, Chemo a 46, and a segment rating of 44. One of the very best matches, if not the best match in company history. This is very, very good indeed. And ultimately, the story of this match is that Shawn Stasiak is kind of getting more and more frustrated as the match goes on, and in the end, he loses his temper and unleashes a barrage of shots at Chemo in the corner. The referee tries to split it up, and Stasiak pushes the referee away and gets disqualified in 10 minutes and 33 seconds. Stasiak, maybe even the architect of his own downfall here. Next, we have before the next match, Buddy Wayne is entering for the contest, but before he can get to the ring, CM Punk attacks him from behind and really hurts him during this one. A segment rating of 45. This feud is really providing or coming up with the results, and that's a really good angle there. And that leads to this short match, or shorter than would be expected, between James Storm and Buddy Wayne, with James Storm pretty much having his way with Buddy Wayne from the get-go and winning in 6:49 when Buddy Wayne is too badly hurt and the referee has to stop the match. Badly hurt as a consequence of CM Punk's earlier beatdown, as well as the stuff James Storm does in the ring. Buddy Wayne, an in-ring performance here of 33, so a little bit off his game, but James Storm, a 42 in-ring performance, making for a 43 segment rating, another really good match on this show. And then we get to the main event. Dan Severn defends his RWR Northwest title for the 5th time, this time against Charlie Haas in a match that goes 14:49, and he wins by submission with the Beast Choker once more, a segment rating of 37. Actually, that might have been a better rating if this hadn't been babyface versus babyface, but that's sometimes what happens with these kinds of matches. There's a ceiling on babyface versus babyface matches, as there would be for heel versus heel. Severn had an in-ring performance of 36, though Charlie Haas a 37. And this is really the reason why after the match, Dan Severn shakes his hand and shows him respect, because I want to start singling out Charlie Haas as somebody with real potential. The fact that he just did a 37 rating in the match shows that he is getting better and better and significantly increasing his quality in ring to this point. So I think we're in a really good place in terms of Charlie Haas coming up, and that's why I kind of wanted to have Dan Severn give him this handshake and this respect, to just sort of a sort of nudge to the audience to say, look, pay attention to Charlie Haas. He is really going well at the moment, and he also enjoyed having the freedom to go off script and perform well here as well. So that's the end of the show. An overall rating of 40, which is really positive. One of the best matches, one of the best shows of all time. And that is in large part due to two of the best matches we've ever done. Chemo versus Shawn Stasiak and James Storm against Buddy Wayne. The title match, not quite as good as those, but I put that down mainly to the fact there was babyface versus a babyface. And in terms of the speech, let's give some compliments to James Storm. I think we'll also give it to Charlie Haas, given the way he did actually perform in the end in that main event. And I think we'll also go with Chemo, who, as usual, is the best performing wrestler in the company. But that's mainly because of his popularity and the exposure he's getting in WWF more than anything else. And that brings us to the end of that particular night of action. I don't suppose it will have increased our size at all again. Well, let's have a look at where all that stuff sits in the top 100s, though. So it was the 5th best show in our company history, which is a great way to start the year 2000. In terms of matches, well, Chemo versus Shawn Stasiak was the 2nd best match in company history, behind only the Shadow against Buddy Wayne that took place in July of last year. And that just shows you kind of the quality of the potential matches James Storm and Buddy Wayne can have. Their match from the show we've just done is the 3rd best match of all time. So they've got the 1st and 3rd best match of all time against one another. Something for us to remember in the future, because they clearly have a lot going on with each other. And then in terms of attendances, the only ones bigger than the show we've just done were the 2 free shows that we put on in the past. So all in all, a very successful event. Dan Severn now is a Northwest champion with 5 successful defenses. Obviously, his best so far coming against Dan Severn at Season's Beatings, but that was a good match. That match with Charlie Haas, that was good. He has got better as this title reign has gone on. He didn't start particularly well, but I've been pleased with the progress he's made, and he's kind of put the work in and deserves, I think, the position in terms of, from a kayfabe perspective, he deserves. Sorry, from a non-kayfabe perspective, he deserves the position, i.e., his overall quality of performances. Whether or not in the story he deserves the title is perhaps a different thing, but I think our fans, if we had any, if they were real, would accept Dan Severn as a worthy champion by this point. That's everything I wanted to do with this episode. Our next one will obviously be bringing you another event, the next event. Not entirely sure what we're going to do, although we will have a tag team title match at that one as the Samoan Violence Connection get their rematch against Red Alert. But thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this today, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Make sure to join us for the next episode. But until then, thank you for watching.